I'm Don.
And hi, I'm Cindy. Welcome to Pearls of Liberty, March 31st, 2012. And we're right at the end of the first quarter of 2012, and possibly right on the brink of some very exciting developments regarding liberty and justice. And one thing that we'd like to mention, we received some emails from people this week about a David Wilcock video, well actually just radio audio program, with this gentleman whose name is Drake, and he backs up a lot of what Benjamin Fulford has been stating about imminent arrest.
Yes, and one of the things we want to mention to preface that is that Benjamin Fulford is pretty much on the same page with David Wilcock as far as we can tell. And Fulford has been saying, he's been giving this deadline of the end of March for the cabal people to publicly confess to what they have been doing. And it's impossible to go into all the detail here, but really what's happening is that the criminal cabal that's been running the world, or at least the Western world, for the last 200 years, it's now, due to the internet and communication and people exposing them, and they're coming out into the open because they're becoming more tyrannical openly. It's become obvious who they are, but they're not confessing. So this is now the last day in March, and this hasn't happened. So what Fulford had been saying was about to happen. They would be arrested if they did not publicly confess by this date. That is what Drake talked about. He talked about the upcoming arrests and how that would happen. And we're not going to try to give you all the detail that's covered in the 3 hours of conversation with David Wilcock. But just to summarize, one of the things that I didn't know, that I've been hearing about this arrest happening, but tentatively for a while, and they do have the media angle covered. There will be coverage, and they have DVDs prepared, which apparently are narrated by personalities that will be recognized by the American public, so it'll have that credibility. And these DVDs contain the true history and what's really going on behind the scenes. And I'm sure that would include things that go back from the time of Lincoln on, because where Drake is coming from and where the groups of people that are positioning themselves to be there when this thing comes down, where we're coming from, and I include ourselves in this group, is from the position that the American Constitution became corporatized, taken over by a corporation at the time of Lincoln. And that's the operating understanding. And that will actually be explained to the American people. But of course people are not going to believe that until it starts to happen, until these people are taken out of power. This is really going to happen within the next few days, however long it takes. Not very long, I would not think. I would say we're looking within the next couple weeks. And that will be an amazing and exciting time. I advise listening to at least some of it, because they talk about how to prepare. I sent out by Twitter and on Facebook a little summary that somebody had put together about what this is not. This is not martial law. When you see American troops doing this, what they're doing is guard out in the streets or around where that we normally wouldn't see them. American troops will be guarding the infrastructure, because what the cabal that's now in charge of the de facto government will be trying to do is they'll be trying to blow up stuff and blame it on terrorists so that they can stay in control. But the military knows this, and the military will be there to guard these power stations, water supplies, etc., so that this doesn't happen, so that these guys don't have the excuse to try to stay in power. Now, They're pretty clever, so they're not going to go down without a fight, but they're becoming increasingly stupid. We've been mentioning this the last couple of weeks, and it's really started to look like the things that they're doing have really only propaganda value. They, you know, Barack Obama put out this executive order that he controlled, the executive branch controls all of the resources in the United States, including everything, and blah, blah, blah. It's just a megalomaniacal delusions of grandeur. And that's where they're at now. It's like Hitler believing that he's going to win when he's hunkered down in his bunker and he's giving orders that are impossible to carry out. The military really is filled with good people who love freedom and will stand with the American people and the Constitution and not with the tyrannical government. So we're in a very good place. So don't panic when you see troops, because they're on our side. And most people know that. Most people intuitively know that.
And we will offer you the links to these videos, and there are also some audio files. And we do kind of want to frame this by saying that these files, this information is coming out in a wrapper that is kind of anti-RuSA, Republic for the United States, and there's been this ongoing controversy between Republic for the United States and the Restore America plan. They have the same roots, but there was a schism, and the information from Drake does contain statements about RuSA and RAP. And would you like to clarify a little bit?
Sure. He does state that he's not promoting one or the other, but he does reference a website that has an obvious bias, and he does not give out the other website. So the military had been more closely aligned with the Restore America plan because they were more looking towards a military solution when they saw that the legal solutions weren't working. The Republic for the United States was tending more towards a diplomatic solution. But ultimately the goals are the same, and to me this looks like ultimately really a Paul versus Barnabas in the Bible, if you know that in the book of Acts, how they had this argument and they went their separate ways. Well, this is kind of like that. And so what's happened is territory that needed to be covered is covered because there's two groups instead of just one group. There's unfortunate mudslinging, and that hopefully will dial down as we come together to pursue what really are the same goals. So that's that is happening. There are some things that we know that are issues that are stated about the Republic that we know have already gotten worked out. They're not issues anymore, but that is posted. The information, the old information, is posted on the website that's referred to in the video with Drake and David Wilcox. And it leaves the idea that these things are unresolved when they are in fact resolved. One of the things that is there also, I'll just point this out just so that people have a little bit of a flavor for the Republic, and people tend to refer to this as Tim Turner's group. It's much bigger than one person, but Tim Turner was elected as the interim president, and he's a Christian man, and he has a strong personality, but he's a very honorable man, and the person that's even writing this blog against him says that he's an honorable man, but that he has been fed information by people that have an agenda. Well, that's probably true. Some of the things that we've seen, if you can just search his name and find things on the web, you'll find things where he's saying things that are wrong, but it's because he's been given false information. So this is somebody whose life is in danger for obvious reasons, and was fed stuff that didn't turn out to be true. So it's easy to make the Republic, RuSA, Republic for the United States of America, look foolish if you focus on these things. but there are other people involved, and like I said, it's much bigger than one person, who have an extreme amount of credibility and have researched through the issues and have a greater understanding of how to deal with some of the subtleties than Tim Turner does. This is an interim government. This is a movement that has gone a long ways in a short period of time. So there are some loose ends and some gaps. But it's people that share a common goal of freedom. And I'm just saying it's time for us to come together and to work towards that ends. And no better way in time than to begin with the arrests of the leaders of the cabal who have not publicly confessed as requested.
And in one sense, no matter how much progress we make with regard to liberty and restoring America, we still have human nature to deal with. And our enemies are, as Christians, the world, the flesh, and the devil. The world is pressures, external pressures. The flesh is just us, our fallen nature, our ego, our pride, our feeling the need to be grasping. And then the devil, if you don't believe in a personal devil, you might just think of it as the influence of evil, but there are entities, beings that are spiritual beings that are trying to work mischief and really destroy humankind, cause us to fall permanently and be completely obliterated or whatever. So these forces are there all the time. I think one of the strongest forces one of the things we have the most control over is the flesh, and that's actually where the rubber meets the road anyway, because we need to process and make decisions about how we're going to behave. So I think that people need to rise up and begin to not be so, have a self-protection instinct. And I'm not saying to trust strangers or be foolish, but the self-preservation thing can probably be set aside a little bit to work together as a team with other people to achieve common goals. And one of the great reasons why we behave foolishly is because we've bought the lie that there's not enough for everybody. We believe in lack as opposed to believing in abundance. And lack has been externally imposed upon us. And once we realize that there is no lack, I think that we'll all be able to begin to function a little more rationally and a little less defensively.
Right, and to summarize what you were saying there, part of one of the key roots that causes us to trip up in our flesh is to operate out of a spirit of offense. When we don't assign the best motive to somebody, when we believe the worst about somebody, when we believe they're operating out of some agenda, and we take offense at that and treat them as an enemy rather than a friend. One of the things that Drake explains in his video is he's talking about the military, but he says there's a lot more good people in the military than there are bad people. Now, what the cabal has done, of course, is they've promoted the bad people to the top so that they can control more people, and that's how they have as much influence as they do. But the world is largely more people that have good intentions than people who have evil intentions. The problem with the psychopaths is their inordinate power based on their numbers because of their devious means. And you can't just automatically assume everybody is not a psychopath, because a few are, but it becomes counterproductive when we're operating out of a spirit of offense, and we need to be, as Jesus said, as wise as serpents and as harmless as doves. We can't just function on the harmless as doves part. We have to be discerning, but we also have to be gentle and trusting as well. It's a very difficult thing, but these are times that call for us to walk in both extreme discernment and extreme love. So that's a challenge. Are you up for it?
Well, we could just stop right there. The concept of lack has really been amped up by the elite and used as a control mechanism for us. Very shortly, and I don't know if it will be at precisely the same time as the arrests, probably not, but very shortly the global economic restructuring that we've been talking about for a while will most likely be released. And with that restructuring will be released abundance, so that the feeling of lack is diminished. And then ongoing from there will be new technology released, many different sorts of things that will benefit mankind, that will help us to diminish our sense of lack, which is a lie that is spun by the elite. So can you talk a little bit about the prospect of the global economic restructuring?
Right. One of the things that Drake did mention is that there already is in place, as of almost 2 weeks now, I believe it's like a week ago Thursday, so it's like 10 days old, there is a new economic system in place globally, and what it does is it removes the non-allied nations from the domination of the Anglo-American Empire's banking system. So really this new world order, this global that had been attempting to form based on the economic system, has been dealt a serious blow with the formation of this new economic system. Their plans to take control of the world through finances really doesn't look like it's going to work now. Now, yes, we always need to be careful, we always need to be cautious, but Christians who have long been suspicious of any kind of anything global will have to kind of get used to the idea that what's happening now in terms of a global banking system that has been taken out of the hands of the cabal is actually a very good thing for mankind, and an opportunity for the gospel and for truth, for liberty to be able to spread worldwide. So, and surprisingly, some of the people that helped to bring that about, as I mentioned last week, were the Chinese and the Asians, who have had less penetration of the gospel. So one way of looking at it is to say, well, these are hungry hearts that say we need truth, and we can't be dominated by this group that is running this propaganda machine. So it will be very interesting to see how the independence of the countries that have been dominated by the West, the Anglo-American Empire, the cabal, how that plays out. But I would encourage Christians not to think of it as this is the new age, this is the new world order. If you listen to people like David Wilcock, you might get the impression that it's new age because he has some ideas that might be associated with new age, but I personally don't believe they're incompatible with Christianity. There's things about aliens, things about some science that sounds pretty far out there, but ultimately truth is truth, so don't be fearful, but welcome the opportunity of liberty that's coming our way. And one of the chief ways is through this new economic system.
And just a little footnote to that, a friend sent us an email this week that in Africa there have been entire mosques that have turned to Christ at the same time, at the same moment. So God is definitely in all of this, and many things are happening in ways that as Christians we've been conditioned to think are not Christian, but maybe we can try to remember how the Pharisees did not recognize Jesus because there was a certain package that they were expecting him to be presented in, and he did not fit their package that was in their minds. So it's important to not have preconceived ideas that are going to confuse us and prevent us from seeing the wonderful things that might be unfolding.
Be prepared to walk side by side with people that might not be believers but have a sincere desire to walk in love and in truth, because if we have those common goals, we will end up sharing our faith with these people, and we might need to undo a few walls of our own in order for that to happen. So don't be fearful.
Do you have any final parting words?
Yes, get engaged in this exciting time, and don't be fearful, but take a step forward for liberty, whatever that is for you, for freedom and for personal expression. Enjoy life.